Hi everybody. So I want to talk about one of the most important devices for enhancing your jazz vocabulary, and that's the push. The crazy thing about the push is you are probably doing it already without even realizing it. I know I was. So let's take a simple rock chord progression. Now this is quite boring. All the chords are on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, but what if we were to push the last one a little bit earlier? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the last chord comes in on the 4 and. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Half a beat earlier than the first beat. And this is so common in pretty much all popular music now, since like the 50s, that we do it without realizing it. It's called a pusher in anticipation in popular music circles. And in the case of the drums, you would probably get them accenting it probably with a cymbal. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, sorry about the noises, but hopefully that gives you the impression like of what the drummer would do. They are structurally important rhythms, and you'll often see them in jazz charts written out. So, you know, for instance, if it's an arrangement of something and you have that last chord anticipated, for instance, in the 2-5-1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Same concept, exactly the same thing, just using fancier chords. Okay. This is something which is probably worth practicing even if you do it unconsciously. A lot of us have a tendency to push a little bit too much. I know I do. And actually, especially for swing, if you practice very carefully with a triplet subdivision, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. You notice that last chord is on the last triplet of that bar. So it is pretty relaxed. Really feel that. That's one of the things that helps you swing, feeling that push, that relaxed push. A great thing to practice with is the Basie Orchestra's recording of Lil Darlin', which is ba ga ga da da ba ba ba. Try playing along with that and try not to be early. It's another way to practice it. So, the push is something we can also apply to melodies. This is kind of really where jazz comes from, I think. If I take something like Autumn Leaves, if you open the real book, you will see this written out in straight quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Not very jazz. We might want to push or syncopate one or more of these notes. So let's do the first one and the last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Now, an important thing about the push is you are actually pushing the note forwards. It's not simply a syncopation on the and. So the last chord, we actually go slightly early with the chord. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The same way that we did with the 2-5-1. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is like really done a lot, even more in sort of Brazilian music. So. Notice how I'm anticipating the chords each time. They're almost every single time. That's really, really common. And you can push every note, but that's kind of more almost of a Brazilian thing. So if I do it on the on Autumn Leaves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. It can actually be quite hard to hear where the beat is. I noticed that, for instance, Pat Metheny uses a lot of pushes, a lot of syncopations like that in his playing. More so than other jazz guitarists, and I wonder if it isn't because he was obsessed with Brazilian music and lived in Brazil for a little while. This also has a ramification for line building, and this is really what I wanted to get to today. for instance, let's take an example from Anthropology. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2. Do you hear that? That's a syncopation. That's a push there. If it wasn't pushed, it would sound like this. Okay? We end on a chord tone. It really has to be a harmonic tone in the same way that we're pushing the chords in the other examples. In this case, the second bar is kind of F7. So if we're harmonizing it, we'd probably harmonize it on those. Hard to get my hand in there in time. Yeah, you see? So the point I'm trying to make is that we're pushing this F, which is part of the F7 chord in the next bar. Late lamented Mike Longo, from whom I got this sort of concept from. Mike Longo was a pianist and educator, long-time pianist for Dizzy Gillespie, and also Mark Ronson's piano teacher, apparently. Anyway, he sort of thought of it as a tap dancing thing. Think of jazz hands. So I want you to think of that every time you play. And this is something we can use to adjust our own lines. For instance, if we have something that ends on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, 3, and 4, and 1. Like that. We're ending on beat 1. We can simply take a note out near the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, and turn it into a push. We could even take it out at the beginning, which has an interesting effect because it puts all the chord tones on the upbeats. 1. Yeah? So this is really great for breaking up the sometimes very kind of, I sometimes find like with the Barry Harris added note rules and stuff, things can get very locked into the beat. Which is fine, but it's not really bop, and I think Barry would probably agree with me there. And I think like the thing is that we should also experiment with kind of these pushed versions as well. So for the Barry Harris added note rules, we can simply take out a note. We can flip over the rules, for instance, and say, okay, well, I'm not going to add in a note between the 1 and the 7 like we normally do. That comes out square. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 1, 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 up, 1, 2, 3, 4. For instance, you know, any of the jazz hands. Okay, so that's how I'd approach just kind of enlivening the phrases a little bit. It's good to look out for these examples in Charlie Parker. If you look 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and but all the way through that head, you'll find loads of examples of these pushes being used. It's a massive area how notes and syncopated rhythms combine to make jazz lines, but hopefully that will give you a little bit more mileage with some stuff that you already play, and it's a good thing to work on in isolation just to really make sure that you're playing those pushes accurately. It will help you be a better ensemble player as well as helping your improvisation. Anyway, thanks for watching. As always, like and subscribe and put any comments you might have below. I'll see you on the next one.